I'm Steve Max of the Three Parks Independent Democrats. This presentation explains why our organization opposes any cuts to Social Security. "65% of older Americans get half or more of their income from Social Security, and as you see on the left, 20% get all of their income from Social Security. They have nothing else to live on." Young people often ask, will Social Security be there when I retire? And of course it will, but it's there for you now. You're currently covered by a disability insurance policy and a survivor's insurance policy for spouses and children should anything happen to you at any age. The right wing can't stand Social Security. It's a big government program that absolutely works. It's an old tactic on the right. Repeat the lie often enough, and people will start to believe it. The lie is that Social Security won't be there when you retire. Listen, the so-called reserve fund, estimated at $47 billion for old age insurance, is no reserve at all because the fund will contain nothing but the government's promise to pay. Henry Ford said that if Social Security passed, you might not be able to change jobs. They wouldn't let you. Barry Goldwater wanted to repeal it. Remember, he ran for president and wrote a book, Conscience of a Conservative, and this is what his conscience told him. And Reagan's budget director, the guy that invented the fraud of supply-side economics, called Social Security a monster and tried to cut benefits. And now, the same old argument comes back. The Social Security Trust Fund is not truly solvent because it is filled with IOUs. The fund does not hold the resources to pay the benefits. Anthony Weiner strikes back.
With the Republican head of the Budget Committee, their ranking member, came out with a proposal to privatize Social Security. And you know what? That's not some obscure member. I actually like the guy. I commend him for being honest. Finally, the Republicans have come out and said what, frankly, they've said for 75 years. They want to eliminate Social Security. Not actually eliminate it. They want to invest it in the stock market. Boy, talk about lessons unlearned. The Democrats who created Social Security are here to celebrate 75 years of keeping it strong and another, God willing, 75 years. The Republicans want to privatize it, invest it in the stock market. You decide for yourself what the right policy is.
Actually, when the baby boomers were born, everyone knew when they would retire, pretty much, and plans have been made to adjust for that. So here's the story. In 2009, the most recent year we have numbers for, Social Security paid out $686 billion in benefits. It took in $807 billion. It made a profit, in a way, and that came from payroll taxes and also from interest on loans that Social Security made to the federal government. The reserve fund grew to $2.5 trillion and will hit over $4 trillion by the end of 2024. Now, this isn't broke. Yes, Social Security loaned out that surplus, and that's how they got the $118 billion in interest payments. And yes, they loaned it to the government. That's actually the law. If they had loaned it to banks, the banks would just have lost it. And yes, the government spent it. That's why they borrowed it. And yes, the government is paying back a little every year. That's where the $118 billion came from. So where do all these numbers come from that say Social Security is going broke? They come from here, the book everybody quotes but nobody reads. And this is where we find out that the assets of Social Security will be exhausted in the year 2037. But there's more to it, because actually the trustees make 3 sets of projections, not just one. The first is the optimistic projection. If everything works out just a little bit better, then Social Security never goes broke. The second is the one that we often hear about, that assets will be gone in 2037, but the income from the taxes will still cover 78% of the costs, and so there's not that much to be made up. And then they make a more pessimistic projection. If the economy gets worse, the assets will be gone sooner. Is this a science? Do we really know? The trustees, who are appointed by the president, used to be fairly upfront about their inability to predict the future. Back in 2000, in that report, they said, "The estimates are not intended to be predictions of the future financial status of the Social Security program. Rather, they're intended to be indicators of the expected trend." Indicators of the expected trend. 2 years later, the trustees said, imagine how difficult it would have been in 1925 to project the world of 1930. They're referring to the stock market crash in '29. But now, they say that they can project the world of 2085. When George Bush tried to privatize Social Security, trustees he appointed took these warnings out of the report. Now all it says is, significant uncertainty surrounds the intermediate assumptions. The intermediate assumptions are the ones that say it goes broke in 2037. The trustees say that those assumptions are based on their ability to predict birth, marriage, immigration, workforce, unemployment, inflation, productivity, wages, economic growth, retirement, and many other demographic and economic factors. You might as well put a quarter in this thing. Is it still a quarter? I can't predict inflation. A few small mistakes can make all the difference in the world. The set of economic projections that ends with Social Security going broke in 2037 is remarkably close to the one that ends in Social Security never going broke. For example, if we have a 3% rate of growth, then Social Security goes broke in 2037, but if we have a 3.5% growth rate, then it never goes broke. And most of the other indicators are similarly within a percentage point of each other, and most of them are actually within the margin of error. Now here are some other examples from the trustees' report. If fertility, that is birth rates, are just a little bit better than they're projected to be, and life expectancy increases are just a little bit smaller than they're expected to be, and productivity is just a little bit better, and prices are just a little bit lower, and joblessness is just a little bit lower, and wages are just a little bit lower, because the higher wages, the more they have to pay out. And if interest rates are just a little bit higher, because they're getting interest on the money they loan out, then Social Security doesn't go broke. But the point here is that all these differences are just a fraction of 1 percentage point. They're within the margin of error. In the real world, all of these economic factors interact with each other, which means that if one projection is wrong, it throws off the rest. This is a chart, one of 5 that Social Security publishes, that shows you how these interactions work. We wish we had time to show you all of them. What it comes down to is this. To make accurate projections about Social Security, you would need to know how many children will your grandchildren have, and how much will they earn a year. And if you don't know, why would you believe that anybody else does? Oh, they're going to inherit your money. Oh, that doesn't count. Only the payroll tax counts. Significant uncertainty surrounds the intermediate assumptions. Look, they said it, I didn't. Will Social Security actually be broke in 2037? Maybe, maybe not. They don't really know. Well, what do we really want here? We want more money in the system, so if it is going broke, it won't. And if it isn't going broke, then use that extra money to pay higher benefits. The Social Security payroll tax is capped at wages of $106,800 a year, which means that if you make around that, you pay as much into Social Security as does our mayor, Michael Bloomberg, and he's the 7th richest man in America. And what's more, income from investments isn't taxed, only payroll is taxed. The Senate Special Committee on Aging costed all this out. They said if the cap were removed, Social Security would be solvent for the next 75 years. And about 1 in 5 people would pay more than now. That's how many have wages above the cap. And for them, the median increase in taxes would be only about 3%. Conservatives in both parties would like to cut benefits and give the money to Wall Street. They want to raise the retirement age and pay less benefits to younger people. This sets the generations against each other and weakens support for Social Security among future retirees, and that opens the door to abolishing Social Security altogether. The right wing can't stand Social Security. It works, and it proves that their philosophy of government is wrong.